purpose of today is for me to wrap up my senior thesis project. I'm going to be presenting on sports psychology. I use the term sports psych kind of loosely though, because it's really applicable to all measures of life. Whether you're an athlete, a singer, a dancer, or a public speaker, if you know how to define and perfect your mental muscle or your brain, you can really increase performance and perform better in high-pressure situations. So once again, thanks for coming out, and without further ado, let me get started. The first slide's a movie clip though, so you guys can sit back and relax. Thanks. I think it's alright.
You didn't even have the football to fumble this time. There's no excuse. No excuse. You want to play football or not? Do you want to play football? Boy, get over there on the bench. Herb, take over for me. You got it? Hey. You all right?
That was a 2-year start at GW. All this yelling he's doing, it don't do nothing but make me play worse. I can't play for this man.
You come play linebacker for me. 23 is killing us. I want you to get out there. I want you to cover him for me.
What you want me going now?
Yeah, I can't. I haven't practiced with the defense. I can't. That doesn't matter. I just want you to get out there. I want you to cover 23. That's all you have to do. We'll talk about the rest of it when we put this one away. You think Yost is trying to let them score on purpose? What? Do you? Oh, come on, huh? Okay, let's go. What is Petey doing in there? Looks like Yost is trying him out on defense. He's taking Allen out. Yost! Hurry. Come on, see what happens. It might be all right. Yost! It's okay. You're okay. You're okay. Yost! Don't you take out my son!
He's getting beat like he stole something, Mr. Bosley.
You just stay out of it, girl.
He's just getting beat, that's all.
Yost!
I included that clip because it covers a lot of the topics I'm going to talk about today. First of all, it's got a lot of information on the power of confidence. While Petey was a running back, you may have noticed, he definitely had the athletic ability, but he couldn't really get his mind to work for him. He was really nervous, and he definitely struggled. Then when he moved to linebacker, he was able to develop both his athletic ability and his confidence. So on a similar idea, I'll be talking about some models of performance which describe how you perform based on certain attributes. The specific one I'm going to talk about is chaos theory or catastrophe theory. The clip also displays some player-coach interactions, interactions which definitely help determine outcome on a field. And finally, although it's not really apparent in this video, this movie definitely has a lot on team building and cohesive interactions, and I'd recommend it. So you probably noticed that when Petey's confidence and performance increased, so did the rest of his teams. So, right now I'm going to bring up a couple of great performers or athletes or whatever. If anybody knows who it is, when I bring the person up, you can raise their hand and tell me who it is. So, first one, does anybody know who this is? Zach.
Roger Federer.
Alright, great. So Roger Federer, he's a phenomenal tennis player that has really changed the game of tennis. Next one. Does anybody know this guy?
Josh Groban?
Yeah, that is. Josh Groban, he sang in the Super Bowl, I think a couple years ago. He sold millions of albums. He's one of the most renowned singers in the world. One of my favorites, everybody knows, obviously. Lance Armstrong came back from cancer and won the most Tour de France's out of anybody. Shaun White, okay, good. Alright, Shaun White, who's definitely revolutionized the world of snowboarding. And then Barack Obama, that's a gimme. Thanks. So he's the first African American president, and he's also a great public speaker. So one thing that all these performers have in common is that they're confident and they know how to make their mind work for them. So for convenience sake, I broke this down into 3 parts. You may have heard the expression he had ice in his veins, or he had veins filled with ice water. This particular quote's about Joe Montana, who's a quarterback great. So I used that acronym, and I broke it down into those parts. First is I for interaction, which means you have to understand the link between your mind and your body. The second part stands for climate. It relates to both yourself and the environment. For example, different athletes might have different goals, or a practice environment may require different responses than a game environment. And finally, the E stands for employ. In this case, it's employing different techniques to calm yourself down or to change and control your situations. So the first part is I, interaction. Basically, it involves the anatomical and the physiological makeup of your body. You've got the nervous system, which consists of the brain, spinal cord, and neurons, which transmit signals. It's broken into 2 parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Basically like an electrical system, your nervous system and nerves are the wires that send signals to different parts of the body. The central nervous system is broken into 2 parts. You have your brain and the spinal cord. Your brain has 4 parts, the cerebrum, cerebellum, diencephalon, and brainstem. They all have different functions. As a whole, though, it's the center of coordination for the entire body. Signals to every organ go out from the brain. Every thought you make has some sort of effect, whether it be just a fleeting thought for a moment or like a complex message telling your arm to move or something. So your purpose in sports psychology or performance psychology is getting your brain to work for you rather than against you. As for the spinal cord, it's housed in the vertebral column. It's the primary highway for the nerves to go down. It goes through the foramen magnum, which is a big hole in the bottom of the skull, and extends all the way down to your second lumbar vertebrae. Peripheral nerves attach to the spinal cord at different points. And if you damage your spinal cord, depending on where you damage it, you can be paralyzed from your waist down or all the way from your neck down. The peripheral nervous system is definitely something we want to pay attention to for psychology. It's responsible for controlling below thought level responses like breathing, sweating, and digestion. And it's divided into 2 systems, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. You may have heard of the fight or flight response. That's talking about the sympathetic nervous system. And then for the parasympathetic nervous system, it's the rest or digest phase. So while the sympathetic system serves kind of like a car as the accelerator, and the parasympathetic system serves as the brakes. As for location, the parasympathetic nervous system connects to the very top and the very bottom of your spinal cord, and the sympathetic nervous system deals with the middle. So like when a doctor originally gets a patient, like if a cocaine addict comes in, they'll exhibit signs like they'll be sweating, their pupils will be really small, and they'll have hypertension, or like their heart will be breathing pretty fast. And that helps them to diagnose what might be wrong with somebody. The other part of the peripheral nervous system is the somatic division, which is responsible for your physical activity, like moving your arm or whatever. the link between muscle and nerve is the neuromuscular junction, and the neurotransmitter acetylcholine transmits the signals from nerve to muscle. Just a side note, when you fatigue, or when you're tired or whatever, there's two types of fatigue. There's physical fatigue and mental fatigue. Mental fatigue is caused when your brain, when you don't really care about an activity, so your brain responds by having a lack of acetylcholine output, and physical fatigue response when the physical fatigue occurs when the acetylcholine output is not enough to stimulate a contraction. Alright. Really the key to sports psychology is the psychosomatic response, which kind of explores the relationship between like what you think and how your body responds. So there's a new field of medicine, well it's fairly new, it's called neuroimmunomodulation, and what they do is like they test subjects like if they bring cancer patients in a room and they have them like think about curing the cancer that's in their body or something like that, or they use therapies like hypnosis, imagery, meditation, or yoga to help try to cure disease. So the research from it seems to suggest by like using a combination of that and actual medical therapy can benefit patients more. Some proof that's been done for the psychosomatic response. I don't know if you guys have heard of the placebo effect, but basically if you give somebody just like a sugar pill and tell them, okay, this could cure your disease, the fact that something with an inert composition, something that won't actually help you, can result in positive effect just due to belief is called the placebo effect. The opposite of the placebo effect is the nocebo effect. Some other things are, I'll skip some of them. The alcoholism test was when a bunch of humans were given alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. They were told that they had the opposite. So they acted as they expected they would act based on what they were told, rather than what was actually in the drink. Alright, the second step is C for climate. It consists of two components, yourself and your surroundings. You have internal factors like your personality or your motivation, which influence you, and then you have external factors, like situational factors like your environment or what type of sport you're playing, if it's competitive or cooperative. So, as for yourself, the deepest component of personality is called your psychological core. That includes like your basic attributes, your interests, your values, what your motives are, and kind of what you believe in. From here, you divide your decisions into your typical responses or like role-related responses. And also, other internal aspects become more defined and understood based upon these original values, which I'm going to talk about now. Alright, so the four that I outlined are motivation, confidence, concentration, and anxiety. So your motivation is basically the intensity and direction of your effort. You can be intrinsically motivated, which means like task-oriented, or you can be extrinsically motivated, which means that you want to complete a task that you have a high success rate in. There's also confidence, which is basically the belief that you can successfully complete a task. And concentration is maintaining situational awareness and focused attention. And last one's anxiety, which is a negative emotional state. It's kind of like the result of worrying. Alright, so this is a model of performance. This is one of the ones I was talking about. Basically, these try to describe how you perform based on different factors. So for this one, if your awareness is high, generally speaking, you're going to perform at a higher rate. But you do reach, according to this theory, you reach a critical point where you become overly focused. I know for me in like baseball, you can, if I'm pitching in a game and I become like over-focused on a task or like over-focused on trying to throw 90 miles an hour or whatever, that sometimes my body will like shut down or I'll throw the ball into the dirt and I'll get wild. I'll lose accuracy or something, and that's what this critical point deals with. So your goal is to get as close to the critical point as you can without actually passing it. Alright. Okay, so your surroundings can help you or they can hurt you, but less than you'd believe. There's been a lot of recent research that has come to question the home field advantage theory, and most of you are probably familiar with that. Nature of activity, like if it's a competitive sport or a cooperative activity, it also plays a role. So you want to kind of strike a balance in your viewpoint when you're performing. You don't want to be overly enthused for a task because that can cause tunnel vision, but you don't want to be under enthused because then that's where the surroundings really play a role in how you're performing. Alright, so step 3 of the ICE program is to try out methods which best suit yourself. So some of you might be helped out more by mental techniques, others might need like a physical device to help increase your performance. But despite this, you want to kind of maintain a balance between the two and try to incorporate both methods. Alright, so I talked about anxiety a little bit, and obviously it's pretty much one of the biggest detriments to performance. If you're anxious, you're worried, you're going to be sweating, you might not be able to complete a difficult task to the degree that you'd like to. So mental anxiety reduction, there's two sides. There's mental anxiety and there's somatic anxiety. Mental anxiety reduction can be achieved by finding kind of a quiet place to relax. You want to be comfortable but not overly comfortable. And you can use a mental device, which would be a word like peace or calm or rest. And just kind of repeat it and focus on maintaining a passive attitude to calm yourself down. And on the other side is somatic anxiety, which is physical anxiety, which is linked to muscle fatigue and tiredness. When you're anxious, your muscles kind of tense up and you lose some of your ability to perform. Breath control is definitely one of the biggest things that can help out with that. Exhalation is the one that really decreases your muscle tension. So you should practice breathing in a 1-to-2 ratio, breathing in for 4 counts, breathing out for 8. There's been a lot of argument as to whether holding in your breath helps or hurts. It's really up to personal preference though. Alright, the next step is motivation-inducing techniques. So on the other hand, there's something that's called fire breathing in yoga. It's basically the opposite of anxiety-reducing breathing. It's where you kind of breathe in and out really fast. I've tried it for away games, like getting off a long bus ride. It can help, but it's not the only thing that's going to help. Some other things you can do are high fives in team sports or whatever, getting yourself mentally hyped or pumped for a game helps out. Or in wrestling, I know they jump ropes before they're about to go onto the mat. Also, one of the biggest ones I think that helps out is listening to upbeat music. And research also supports a pre-competitive workout, which is 4 to 10 hours before you actually have your competition or your event. You should work out to get your body, your blood flowing and get yourself mentally and physically stimulated. Alright. Imagery is another thing that you can definitely use. It's useful before and even during breaks in action. It's the process of mentally recreating situations or picturing new situations so that you can mentally prepare or deal with the situation if it arises. Energizing imagery often increases motivation, but you want to be sure to combine a lot of your senses when you're using imagery. You want to kind of see it in your mind's eye, feel it, hear it, and they even say that you should kind of smell where you are. So I don't know if you're imagining that you're on a court or something. I guess you could smell the hardwood or something. I don't know. Studies in almost all sports though support the value of imagery. The most successful imagery is vivid and controllable. so you see really clearly what you want to see, and you also see what you want to see rather than like letting things get out of hand. It has a lot of benefits if you can use imagery. You can have higher confidence, you can control your emotions and prepare for competitions. It also helps create vicarious situations that you can refer to. Imagery should be used from two perspectives though, internal and external. So you should imagine yourself doing the action, and then you can imagine like others viewing you doing the action, or from like a far off standpoint. There's also been studies that show that athletes who employ imagery make faster decisions and have improved execution of tasks. Alright, confidence-inducing techniques. Alright, so some of the benefits of confidence are more like positively oriented for your emotions, and you can also become more assertive and aggressive. They can also help to facilitate concentration and allow for challenging goals to be pursued. You can have increased effort, and your game strategy or psychological momentum will be created. If wrestling's probably the biggest sport I see this in, but you can have two guys that weigh the same weight, but one guy always wins because maybe one guy's more confident than the other. To control confidence, you can use vicarious experiences. The biggest thing that I've seen this in is Shaun White. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him that much, but before he came to snowboarding, people were just doing the same traditional moves. But once he kind of joined the field, he really revolutionized the sport of snowboarding by trying new moves, things that nobody's ever done before. And once other athletes kind of saw what he was doing, then all of a sudden they could do it. Another thing is you can obviously use imagery to improve your confidence, and verbal persuasion from like a coach or a mentor. Creating effective practices is another way to be more confident, feel more prepared for a competition. Alright, okay, so concentration is another really important factor. What I did is I put these things out on your desk, and I have pencils there. What it is it's called a concentration grid, and it's just a 10 by 10 square with the numbers from 1 to 100. And what you do is you give yourself a minute, and you try to cross off as many of the numbers in sequence. So you start with 1 and work your way up to 100. So I'll time you guys if you want to try it now. But I just thought it was interesting because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Roy Halladay. He's the new pitcher for the Phillies. But when he was with Toronto, and I'm assuming he still does it now, he used to complete 2 of these squares. Two the day before a start, and 1 the day of a start. So it can really help you out. I'll start a timer if you guys are ready. Alright, ready? Go.
Please excuse the interruption. Middle school girls soccer practice for today has been canceled. That's middle school girls soccer canceled for today. Thank you.
Second move. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, stop. 17. Alright, so it's definitely a lot more challenging. definitely a lot more challenging than you would think it would be. Basically, there's ranges. Now, what Roy Halladay does is he takes one of these squares and he tries to do the whole thing in a small amount of time. Well, as small a time as he can, but he'll like purposely distract himself. Like he'll be listening to music. He'll have some of the squares colored different colors, maybe the numbers different colors, stuff like that. Those are things that you can do that make this test even harder. But I don't know. Did anybody have like a high number that they want to share? 17?
17.
23, 21, 19. Okay. So, alright, well, basically, if you have 30 or more, you're considered to be in the highest degree of concentration. I haven't done the test yet. I'd like to do it. Maybe after. If you're in the 20 to 29 range, you'll have above average concentration. The average is about 20. So 15 to 19, we'll say that's average. And anything below 15 is kind of considered below average, but I don't know. So, but this is something that like athletes do to try to build their concentration. I mean, anybody can do it. It's pretty easy, and it definitely works if you do it like on a scheduled basis. Originally, when I set out to do a senior thesis project, I wanted to focus on injury psychology, but it wasn't really, it would have been really tough to do just because I don't really have the means to do it, a lot of that stuff. But basically, the most common thing that you can use when you're an injured athlete is imagery. It's been proven through research to reduce your hospital stay. You'll feel better. The rate of healing actually increases, as well as your mood, and you'll have decreased post-operation pain. So there's definitely a lot of evidence that supports imagery used after an injury. It's important to have a strong social support though, like a social network of coaches, parents, players, just to help you stay involved and stay kind of motivated. You know, you don't want to feel like just because you're injured you can't do anything, but at the same time you have to like focus yourself on the recovery process. You want to become educated about your injury, and stress leads to higher levels of, or higher risk of re-injury. So, because when you have more anxiety, you increase your muscle tension. So you increase your risk of becoming re-injured. So it's really important to be psychologically stable when you're an injured athlete. I know that I'm going to be trying to employ some of these tactics, and definitely talking to my doctor, I partially tore my UCL, it's in your elbow. And I don't know, I'll just be doing the best I can to become like motivated and aware of my situation and aware of the best options and stuff. So we'll see. Alright, goal setting. The biggest thing for goal setting is that you want to have, there's two types of goals, short-term and long-term. And you want to have both, but you also want to be like really specific about your goals. Like you can't just say, oh, I want to win. You have to say, I want to win what, you know, when, where, why, all those types of things. And you also need to have your goals adjustable, because you can't really foresee things coming like injury, or, you know, sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. So you have to be able to readjust your short-term goals in the process of attaining a long-term goal. One visual technique that you can use, I have an example here. The first time I heard about this, it's called a visualization collage. And what you do is you basically pick out types of things that you're interested in, or like your goals in life. So for me, some of the things I want to do, I want to go skydiving. I want to visit Australia. I want to have a family. I want to be a surgeon, a doctor. I'd like to hit a hole-in-one. I just put some of those things on a board. But the first time I heard about this, was a speaker at a leadership conference, and he said that a friend of his had done this technique when he was like 18 years old or whatever, and he had some tough times like right after that. But then eventually he found himself in a good job, got some money, and he bought a house. Well, when he was moving into his new house, he found his visualization collage, and he looked at the picture where he put like his dream house on there. And then he realized it was the exact same house as the one he bought. So I just thought that was pretty neat. if you record something, you're a lot more likely to actually follow through and do it. I don't have much time left, so I'm going to wrap it up. So basically, confidence comes through understanding. When you understand how your body, how your mind works, when you understand different situations, you definitely become better, more capable of increasing your performance. I use the acronym ICE to help remember it. So I is obviously the interaction between body and mind. Your climate can also reveal a lot of clues about yourself and about where you are and then finally what type of techniques you can employ. So that's pretty much it. I just